Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about the 1998 to 2000 animated show Godzilla the series. And the show is basically a direct sequel to the critically despised Roland Emmerich movie of the same year, 1998, and picks up at the moment of Godzilla's death in that film. Dr. Nico Totopoulos, who is now voiced by Ian Ziering of later Sharknado fame. I guess Matthew Broderick was keen to distance himself from the franchise after the movie's reception, leads the search for any remaining eggs left behind by the monster. By a series of contrivances, the Doctor finds the only one just as it hatches, and the baby Godzilla imprints upon him as its parents. Totopoulos forms a team to study this new Godzilla. He recruits a couple of scientists he worked with in the movie, plus an expert hacker as their tech support. And they're soon joined by a French intelligence agent who was initially sent to kill the creature, but then given new orders to study and observe it. The new Godzilla grows at a prodigious rate and soon attains adult size, which proves very fortunate indeed because the team soon find themselves travelling the world in a hydrofoil vessel, investigating sightings of new mutations, an entire wave of giant monsters that are beginning to spring up in all kinds of places. The new Godzilla, thanks to its attachment to Dr. Nico Totopoulos, becomes their principal weapon in the battle against these creatures. Now, if that premise sounds a bit familiar, even though you're way too old to have grown up watching this particular show, there's a very good reason for that. It's very similar to the setup of the 1978 Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Now, this series lacks the earwormy theme song that Hanna-Barbera imprinted on a generation's collective psyche, but on the other hand, it also lacks the painful cutesiness of Godzuki, so you win some, you lose some, I guess. So, prior to the release of Roland Emmerich's Godzilla movie, Sony TriStar was so confident of its success that they paid Toho, owners of Godzilla, a cool $5 million for sequel rights. Then the movie came out, tanks with critics, which it was expected to do because all Roland Emmerich films do, but then also failed to do the spectacular box office business that anticipated. Now, Emmerich maintains to this day that the film was a success because the worldwide gross was triple the production budget. But tellingly, the studio abandoned its sequel's plans due to lack of enthusiasm from audiences, theatre owners, and licensees. Instead, we got this animated TV series, which had the twin benefits of being much cheaper to produce and, with a new monster every week, would be much quicker to generate monsters for a franchise toy line. And the series had pretty good ratings, but the toys it was intended to generate never happened because those produced for the film sold so poorly that no one was interested in doing them. The TV show became something of a casualty as it was shuffled around the TV schedule to make room for the exploding interest in Digimon, which aired on the same network and was locked in a popularity battle with Pokemon at the time. Godzilla's irregular schedule hurt the show and it was cancelled after 2 seasons. So did it deserve better? Well, that's what I'm here to talk about. Let's start with some positives. So in typical Emmerich style, the 1998 Godzilla movie featured shallow characters with thinly sketched, formulaic relationships who primarily existed just as a mechanism to bring the audience along for the special effects extravaganza. But the show has much more time to fill, so even with the need to introduce a new monster pretty much every episode, and then have Godzilla fight it at least a couple of times, there's scope for more character interaction. The result is a more engaging group of characters whose behaviour, attitudes, and relationships actually get to evolve over the course of 40 episodes. The relationship between Totopoulos and his reporter girlfriend is much more convincing and layered in the show than it was in the film, for example, even if I could do without the female scientist is jealous of the girlfriend theme that runs alongside it. The show also uses its episodic format to weave in long-running character gags and some gradual relationship development. Randy the hacker initially has a bit of a rivalry with the fastidious Dr. Craven over their respective technological skills, but over the course of the series the pair become friends, for instance. Now, the film's Godzilla, the monster itself, was honestly rather underwhelming. Just a giant lizard that ultimately gets taken out by regular air-to-ground missiles. Certainly, Big G's creators were unimpressed, as Toho have taken several verbal shots at this version. For instance, in their 2004 film Godzilla Final Wars, this creature is dubbed as just Zilla because, as that film's producer put it, Emmerich's movie took the god out of Godzilla. Now, I'm pleased to say that the show does a better job with its monsters. Or some of them, at least. It's true that quite a few of the creatures that Totopoulos and co face are just animals grown to kaiju stature. We get a giant armadillo, giant spiders, and a giant turtle, to name just 3 examples, and there are many more. But it does also roll out some more inventive, often ooky and grotesque inventions. Crustaceous Rex may at heart be a mutant crustacean, as the name implies, but it has a neat visual design with 5-jawed mouth, dangling tentacles, and a bizarre version of bipedal movement. And then there's the Sub-Zero Manta, whose memorably ooky visuals as an airborne menace were apparently a last-minute invention. The original script for the episode was about a giant bird monster simply called the Bird of Prey, but during production, they realised they'd already had several bird-based monsters, so they switched things up. The show is better for it. This monster is much more memorable than a straightforward bird monster would have been. Along with the positives, however, the show also has some obvious weaknesses. The production was quite rushed, and early episodes in particular are sometimes weak from an artistic and animation perspective. And as the example about Sub-Zero Manta shows, the writing team were not always well coordinated. Now, the quality of the art does improve over the course of the show, but the consistency of the writing remains uneven. For instance, midway through season 2, there's an episode where the team goes to Area 51. When one of the team says she believes that aliens have visited the Earth, all the other team members scoff at her, despite the fact that they have fought aliens on the show already, and not just one time, but in 5 previous episodes. Now, the Godzilla Wiki attempts to justify this by suggesting that, this episode must actually be set before the other ones, despite airing later. But the script itself does nothing to establish that. The Doylist explanation, that there was bad production control, seems much more compelling and logical to me than this attempt at Watsonian justification. But points for trying, guys. Overall, by the standard of late 90s television animation, this is a pretty decent offering. In the year 2025, though, it's not in the same league as later offerings like Avatar The Last Airbender, Justice League, Young Justice, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, or Star Wars Rebels. Ultimately, this is probably only worth your time if you're completely out of more recent cartoons to watch, or if, like me, you're a bit of a Godzilla tragic. Next time, a group of Soviet deserters and criminals face off against the might of the Nazi war machine in the 2010 Russo-Ukrainian miniseries Black Sheep, or to mangle its original title, Parshiware Ovstse. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've seen Godzilla the series, let me know what you thought of it.